More now on our main story. The Prime Minister has ordered an inquiry into the contaminated blood scandal that left 2,400 people dead. Many of them were haemophiliacs who died from hepatitis C and AIDS-related illnesses after receiving contaminated blood products from the NHS in the 1970s and 80s. Well, let's speak to the Conservative MP Alistair Burt, who was the Health Minister in the 1990s and had called for an inquiry. He's therefore is in Westminster. Good afternoon.
Hello.
So when you made those calls for an inquiry, are we talking back when you were Health Minister, or what sort of timescale here?
It was before that. I became an MP for my present constituency in 2001 and had constituents who had been caught up in this. And I made requests both of the Conservative government and the then Labour government to say we needed to do more to support them. The calls for a public inquiry came from the fact that the Department of Health, although it had revealed information, hadn't answered questions in an inquiry form, and there were repeated questions about who knew what and when did they know it, about the quality of blood and any risks attached to it when it was being used for transfusions. And I always felt there was something that needed to be investigated, and I was one of a number of MPs who did this and campaigners outside. This has been a long process, and I'm very pleased that the calls have been heeded and the government has made the announcement today.
Why do you think there was resistance to answering those questions before now?
I don't know is the short answer, because those who were responsible, I think, have long departed the scene. I couldn't understand why the department was so resistant to answering questions. More and more information was put into the public domain in terms of documents released for Peter Archer's inquiry, for the Penrose inquiry in Scotland. But the thing that seemed to be missing was people prepared to come forward and answer questions. And what we've seen recently has been the revelation of more documents available from outside the department, which have cast new light and raised new questions on those crucial issues of what was known. Because many of those who have survived this will tell stories of what they heard in hospital when they were being treated. They were treated differently in different hospitals, and it was at a time when patients weren't given the sort of consideration we would expect them to have now, and people felt that they were treated, perhaps as objects rather than as patients, and somehow people have to find out what happened to them, why certain things happened, and who knew what at particular times.
I mean, it does seem at best puzzling that it's taken this long. Is there a part of you that suspects some sort of cover-up here?
I don't know the answer to that, really. The Penrose inquiry in Scotland looked long and hard at the issue. People thought then there might be what was called a smoking gun. In the end, there wasn't. But all the time, people have been looking to see if there was anything new. And the recent investigations mentioned by Diana Johnson, who's done so well as a Member of Parliament representing people, and Paul Goggins before her. But the issues mentioned by Diana Johnson this afternoon that have recently come to light suggest there may be more documents that indicate that we still don't know everything about how the blood was transferred and what people knew about it. And that's so important to people who've suffered for so long.
What of the breadth of this inquiry, and indeed what it might end up doing, not just in terms of answering questions, but, if relevant, in handing out punishments to those who may have been responsible for something seriously amiss here?
I don't know and can't prejudge what the inquiry will find or what the end result may be. I think those who have been involved now have to be consulted, as the government has said very clearly they will be, to work out precisely what style of inquiry there might be. I know Andy Burnham was very interested in the sort of inquiry that David Cameron instigated into Hillsborough, led by Bishop James Jones, which found a way of bringing information out without the full panoply of a public inquiry, but having a certainty that people needed to answer questions. So genuinely, it's not for me to decide what the form of the inquiry will be. I think you have to talk to those who have been involved. I hope people come to a reasonable answer, because we need to get moving on this. And again, I wouldn't like to prejudge what will come out of it, and I don't think people should go into it with an intention of delivering a particular answer. Let's find out what happened, because that seems to me to be terribly important as a constituency MP.
Alistair Burt, thank you very much indeed for coming on. You mentioned Andy Burnham. We'll be talking to him in about half an hour's time.